Hi guys. This week we're going to review solving equations. Okay, so I say review because this is something that we did before in the very beginning of Algebra 1, way back in probably September or so, August, September. The difference is today we are going to use a calculator to do the arithmetic, like the adding and subtracting and things like that if we need it. But we had gotten really used to using the Inspire and using InSolve and using those shortcuts in preparation of the STAR test. Well, we're not going to be taking the STAR test this year, and you probably don't have an InSolve at home. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to back to basics. We're going to go old school, and we're going to solve them by hand like I had to do back in my day. And this is a really good skill because you're going to need it in geometry, you're going to need it in Algebra 2, you're going to need it when you take the TSI, getting ready for college, military, whatever you're going to do after high school. And so what I want to do is I want to just kind of review some basics. When we solve equations, okay, to solve an equation means we want to figure out what value of x would make that equation true. And so the way we want to do that is we want to isolate the variable. Okay, isolate the variable. Now that's the fancy algebra way to say it. What I would say in class is we just want to get x by itself. Okay, once we get x by itself, we have solved the equation. Now the way we're going to do that is we're going to work backward. We're going to take that equation and we're going to undo the operations that we see, which means we have to do the opposite. Okay, and so my color coding here got a little bit blurry. I apologize for that. But the four operations we're going to be dealing with today are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, so in order to undo these, we need to know what the opposite operations would be. So if we see addition, the opposite is subtraction. If we see subtraction, the opposite is addition. If we see multiplication, the opposite is division. And if we see division, the opposite would be multiplication. Okay, I know my videos have been getting a little long, so I'm going to move through these kind of quickly. But remember, you can always pause, rewind, watch them again. You can message me, email me if you have questions. If you want some extra examples, I will certainly take care of you there. All right, so let's review just one-step equations. This is where we would have started in the beginning, okay? First thing I'm going to do is, I know I want to isolate the variable, so I want to get that x by itself. So what I do is I draw a wall. Okay, some teachers call it a river. I'm sure there's lots of different things that we can call it. But basically, where my equal sign is, I'm going to draw a wall there, a line down that equal sign, because the thing about equations is when we're solving, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Okay, so we have to keep this equation equal. We have to keep it balanced. So if I'm doing an operation on the left side, I have to also do the operation on the right side. And the line down the equal sign just kind of helps keep us organized and keep everything straight. So what I see here is it wants me to solve x plus 7 equals 15. X is what I want to isolate. I want to get x by itself. To do that, I need to get rid of the 7. Since this is plus 7, that's adding 7. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 7. But if I subtract 7 from the left side, I also have to subtract 7 from the right side. Okay. Always, always, absolutely, every time. If you do an operation to the left, you have to also do that to the right. Okay. So now from there, I'm just going to simplify. Plus 7 minus 7, these cancel each other out. And I'm going to bring down my x. 15 minus 7 is 8. X is all by itself, so I am done. X equals 8. If I wanted to check and see if I did it right, okay, I'm not going to make you do this every time, but the way we could check is take that solution and plug it back in for x. So we started out with x plus 7 equals 15. Ooh, sorry, got you in the shadow there. X plus 7 equals 15. I could plug in that 8 in place of the x, and then I want to see if it's actually true. Well, 8 plus 7 is 15. 15 is 15, so I know I did it right. Okay. All right, looking at example 2. Draw my line down the equal sign. I have n minus 3 equals 2. I want to get the n by itself, so I'm going to get rid of that 3. Well, it's a minus 3. It's being subtracted, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. These cancel out. I bring down the n. 2 plus 3 is 5. So my solution is n equals 5. Okay. Let's look at 2 more examples before we get into multi-step equations. 5k equals 100. Now, this one can be a little bit tricky because here I saw the operation. It gave me a plus sign. It gave me a minus sign. It doesn't give us an operation symbol here. But what we know is that if I have a letter and a number, basically a coefficient and a variable stuck together like that without an operation symbol, this is always, excuse me, multiplication. Okay, so this is 5 times k. So the way to get the way to get k by itself is to divide by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so that's just a 1k, or k. 100 divided by 5 is 20, so our solution is k equals 20. All right, in example 4, 7 equals d over 4. Now, this fraction, the fraction bar here, always represents division. So d over 4 is actually d divided by 4. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. I'm going to multiply by 4, multiply by 4. 4 divided by 4 is just 1. So again, that's just 1d, or d. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 equals d. Okay. All right, so now that we've reviewed solving one-step equations, I want to move on to multi-step, because this is what you're going to see more often, especially as you move further along through a course like algebra, or really any of your math courses. All right, so we're going to review multi-step equations. I still want to isolate the variable. I still want to get that x by itself, okay? And I'm still going to do that by doing opposite operations. I'm going to start off the same way. I'm going to draw my wall. Now I want to get x by itself, okay? So I'm going to have to get rid of the 5, and I'm going to have to get rid of the 3. But what I want to do is I want to kind of work in opposite order of operations. So I'm going to get rid of that plus 3 first. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Okay. Notice I didn't subtract 3 here. I just subtracted it once on the left side and once on the right side. 3 minus 3 cancels. I'm just going to bring down the 5x. 23 minus 3 is 20. So the difference here is after that one step, I'm not done like I was in the first 4 examples because I haven't gotten x by itself yet. I still need to continue to work to get it isolated or get it by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the 5. Well, remember, this is 5 times x. Opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing by 5. Okay. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so that leaves me with x, 1x, equals 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay. The important thing when you see these problems is not to be intimidated. Remember the process. We just want to isolate the variable. We want to undo the operations that we see. Okay, take them one step at a time. So if we look at example 6, 14n minus 8 equals 34. I drew my line down the equal sign to remind myself that whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And when I'm finished, I'll have n on one side and everything else will have moved off to the other side. First thing I want to get rid of is the minus 8, so I'm going to add 8. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now, negative 8 plus 8, those cancel out, gives me 0. So I'm going to bring down the 14n equals 34 plus 8 is 42. Okay. Now, guys, when you're adding, I don't mind you using a calculator. I don't mind you using your phone calculator. You can use Desmos.com. You can count on your fingers. It's perfectly fine with me. Because what I'm looking for here is that you understand the algebraic process of how to solve. So if you need help with the adding and subtracting and multiplying and stuff, that's fine. Because after you start to do this for a while, it gets kind of tiring and you might make mental errors. And so it's okay to use your resources, use your technology. What I want you to focus on here is actually going through the steps. Okay. So we have 14n equals 42. This is 14 times n, so I'm going to divide by 14. Divide by 14. 14 divided by 14 is 1n, so that's just n, equals 42 divided by 14 is 3. Okay. All right. 2 more examples, and this is where I know people start to stress out a bit because now we see fractions, we see negatives, but again, we're going to remember our process. We're going to take it one step at a time. Okay. I'm going to start by drawing my wall where my equal sign is. Okay. This problem is a little bit different because so far our variables have always been on the left side, but they're not always going to be on the left, and honestly, it doesn't matter which side they're on. Okay. So k is what I want to isolate. It's my variable. I want to get it by itself. The first thing I need to, don't worry about this fraction right now. Okay. The first thing I need to get rid of is this minus 12. Since it's subtracting, it's negative, I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Okay. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0, so that cancels out. And I'm going to bring down this whole thing here, this big ugly fraction, k over negative 4. And we'll worry about him in a minute. 8 plus 12 is 20. Okay. So now, we're partway there. Forget about the fact for a second that this is a fraction and a negative and that makes us nervous. That's okay. But what do we want to isolate? Well, we want to isolate the k. So what operation is happening here? This is k divided by negative 4. The opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we're going to multiply by negative 4 on both sides. Okay. Multiply by negative 4 on both sides. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1, so that's just a 1k. So we have k all by itself now. And then I'm just going to simplify over here. Negative 4 times 20 is negative 80. Okay. And example 8. Okay, this one is a little bit scarier because it's got all kinds of stuff going on in this fraction. All right, but let's start small. Remember our steps. I'm just going to start by putting a line, a wall, where my equal sign is. 16 equals d minus 12 all over 14. So the first thing I'm going to have to get rid of is this 14. Well, this is divided by 14. So remember, what's the opposite of dividing? That's multiplying. So I'm going to multiply by 14 on both sides. Okay. Now I know this still looks a little bit ugly, but 14 divided by 14 is 1, so those simplify. And all I have left over here now is d minus 12. 14 times 16 is 224. And no, I did not do that real fast in my head. I totally used a calculator when I went through my practice run on the notes. Okay? 224 equals d minus 12. So now this looks a lot nicer. It's a lot less intimidating. Okay, so we can stop stressing about that fraction that we saw. D is what I want to isolate. So I am going to get rid of this minus 12. Well, the opposite of subtracting is adding. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Okay. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0. So all I have left here is the d. 224 plus 12 is 2 36. And we're all done. Okay. I'm going to stop there with the notes. Again, I went through this kind of fast, and I know this is review. So some of you maybe never forgot how to do this, and you're totally good, and you can go through the assignments, no problem. But if this is new to you, or if it's something that you have forgotten, I want you to do the practice problems. Okay, so you will see the practice problems. I don't think I have the blank sheet. But if you look on Google Classroom, attached to the blank notes are 9 practice problems. Work through those, show your steps. Okay, and will also have posted an answer key that shows my work step by step. Please, please, please let me know if you need help. Okay, check in with me at least once this week for an easy 100 that will replace a low grade. Okay, we're winding down. We don't have too many required assignments left before the end of the semester. Check in with me. If you need extra videos, I'll get you those. If you need some more practice problems, if you just want me to meet with you on a Zoom and kind of work one-on-one, working through some notes, I'll be happy to do that. Let me know what you need, and have a great week. Bye-bye.